Hello everyone, I am back with a new video. Today we are going to be learning how to play a game of Magic. So the first things that we're going to go over are card types. So there's a couple of different types of cards in Magic. The first one and the most important one is lands. There are two subtypes of lands, basic lands like this one, and then non-basic lands which will have a completely different name. Basic lands are forest, swamp, island, mountain, and plains. Each one taps for green, black, blue, red, and white, and nothing else. And tap means to use it to extract mana. So when I tap this forest, it turns sideways. See how Coctree says I have tapped that forest, and I will get a green mana from that. Next card type we're going to talk about is creatures. Creatures are a type of permanent card, just like lands. These are the same type of super card, where a permanent is just a card that once you cast it, it remains on the board until it is removed from that board. Every turn you may play one land from your hand. You may cast any number of spells on your turn, so long as you can have access to the mana to cast it. On the start of your turn, if you did not go first, or if this is Commander and there are 4 players, you will draw a card. And that is represented by your draw step. So steps are untap, upkeep, which is the very beginning of your turn, nothing happens on your upkeep, draw, where you draw your card, main phase, where you play your land, cast your spells, combat, where your creatures go to war, which you tap them sideways to do, attack, where you turn them sideways, block, where you can throw your own creatures in front of theirs so that you don't die, damage, where they deal damage to each other, end of combat, where it ends, a second main phase so that you can cast more spells, and then you end your turn. If your hand has more than 7 cards in it, on your end step, you must discard to 7. Let's go over a few other types of cards. So we also have artifacts and instants and enchantments. An artifact and an enchantment are pretty similar in that they are permanent cards that are not creatures. The difference between these two is that enchantments typically have a color associated with them, artifacts don't. An instant is the first non-permanent spell that we're going to be talking about. The instant is a non-permanent spell that you cast it at any time, the effect goes off, and then the card goes into your graveyard. There is another card type that is a sorcery. We will go and find really quick. A sorcery is a type of non-permanent spell that you can only cast during your turn. So on your main phase, just like when you play lands, just like when you cast your creatures, that's when you can cast sorceries. And that's pretty much the super basics of how to play Magic. You play your lands, you cast your spells, you use your creatures to beat your opponents to death. There is one other card type that I think we can talk about very briefly, and that is Planeswalkers. Planeswalker is another type of permanent spell that you can cast on your turn, but has special abilities. So a Planeswalker has 1 to 3 to sometimes even 4 abilities. You can activate one of each on each of your turns. The Planeswalker enters the battlefield with something called loyalty counters. Loyalty counters are just the life of the Planeswalker. Just like you have 20 life, and if it goes to 0, you die, the same is for your Planeswalkers. If the number of loyalty counters on a Planeswalker is reduced to 0, the Planeswalker dies and goes to your graveyard. Your Planeswalker will have a number of plus abilities and a number of minus abilities. What this means is that to plus is to add loyalty counters, to minus is to remove them. Some planeswalkers can create something called an emblem. An emblem is a special type of permanent that cannot be interacted with. So you're going to see cards in the game that say destroy target permanent or exile target permanent that will remove the planeswalker from the game. But if there's an emblem, this emblem cannot be targeted. It's not affected by anything. It is untouchable. It is there for the rest of the game. And those are the super basics of Magic. Um, you draw cards, you play lands, you cast spells. And this is how you would resolve this spell. Just a quick. No, there you go. Going to your graveyard, and then you at your start of your turn you untap, go to your upkeep, you go to your draw, you draw a card, go to your main phase, play a land. Um, this hand has nothing to cast right now, but this is the basics. You go to that. If you have creatures to attack, you go to combat, declare them as attackers, see if your opponent will block, they will deal damage. The combat ends. You go to a second main phase where you can cast more spells if you can. Then you end your turn. And those are the super, 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 super basics of playing Magic. More specifics and more complex plays can obviously be made, but this is just a super basic how-to. Okay. Hope this was helpful. If you have questions, feel free to leave a comment, or if you are in the Discord that these videos are really being made for, please at me, and I will answer your question as quickly as possible. Okay, thank you. Bye.